Hello and welcome back. This may be a first. I can't remember if I've ever used a goalie for a weekly video thumbnail, but man, does Hellebuyck deserve it. The Jets are 4-0. They lead the league with only 5 goals against, and Hellebuyck picking up right where he left off with a 1.25 goals against, 952 save percentage, and a shutout. So if you did the exact opposite of the data draft strategy and picked him up, you're probably laughing at me right now and you're 2-0. But the Jets have 3 games this week, all on the heavy nights, and this week you really can't afford to add those Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday guys. So let's do what we always do and jump right into the schedule for week 3. 49 games this week, but it's very heavy on those Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays. You got 16 games. Every team plays Tuesday night. You've got 9 games on Thursday. You've got 14 on Saturday. So you're going to have to find some light night guys if you're going to try to maximize your schedule in terms of roster adds this week. There's only 1 game on Monday. That is Toronto versus Tampa. There's 1 game on Wednesday. That's Philly versus Washington. And then there's a couple of games you can get Friday and Sunday. So your max strategy would be to find somebody who plays that Monday, Tuesday back-to-back, either a Tampa Bay guy or a Toronto guy for that Monday, Tuesday back-to-back, ride them out throughout the week, and then either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, try to pick up somebody who plays on Sunday. That'll give you those 5 games that you're looking for. But in terms of the best schedules this week, you're looking at New Jersey, Philadelphia, Edmonton in terms of 3 games with 2 light nights, and then same thing with Ottawa, 3 games with 2 light nights. You can also see up here, Detroit has 4 games, only 1 light night. Toronto, 4 games, they play that Monday. So Detroit is struggling. They are, I've watched them a couple of times as they played the Rangers twice this week, and they just look all out of sorts. They do not look like they have a starting goaltender. Alex Lyon is probably your best bet in terms of Detroit starters. Their power play looks a little bit anemic. Their penalty kill was atrocious. Their 5-on-5 play was okay, but they're not really getting a lot done. Patrick Kane hasn't really done a whole lot so far, so not a lot to like in Detroit. And then as we look at the worst schedules this week, Buffalo with 2, Vancouver with 2, and Columbus with 2. So guys like Chinakhov, Marchenko, those guys are red hot right now. I just added Chinakhov because I was fed up with Patrick Kane at this point. But they're only going to get 2 games next week, so that was probably a stupid decision on my part. But if you're looking at the best schedule this week, it's going to be New Jersey. They've got this back-to-back Thursday, Friday at Detroit, then home against the Islanders. Then they've got the at home against the Ducks on Sunday. So a couple of nice, favorable matchups. This Tuesday game against Tampa Bay will be difficult, but they do get the 4 games. They have 2 light nights, and we will go over all of the guys that we basically went over last week when we look at them. As we look at the Flyers, they were coming back off of a Western road trip. They have 3 of their 4 games this week at home, so that's going to be favorable a little bit, but all of these games are back-to-back, so you're looking at a home-and-home against the Caps, and then a home back-to-back, which is at least a little bit better, against Minnesota and Montreal. So we'll go into some detail about the Flyers ads, and then Edmonton, there's not a lot to add. You got Victor Arvidsson at 33%, but everybody else is owned up, and nobody's really doing too much. They have Carolina on Tuesday. They've got Pittsburgh Friday and Detroit Sunday. So some good matchups if you can find Arvidsson, maybe Henrique. There's not a whole lot else on the waiver wire. We're not going to cover them in detail because of that. But we will go over some Ottawa Senators. They have a little bit harder schedule. Utah, pretty good so far this year, 3-2-1. They've been pesky. They've been very difficult to play against. They can score. And Ottawa does have some defensive deficiencies with that 8-7 game against LA. We know that. They also have this game on Friday. This is a 3-game road trip, so they have Vegas on Friday and then Colorado on Sunday. Normally that would be a tough spot for them, but Colorado is struggling right now to keep everyone healthy and keep the puck out of their net. They did get their first win last night. So as we look at the best schedule this week, we're going to start with New Jersey, and this is the exact same slide that you saw last week with a little bit of updating. So Paul Cotter went from 4% last week when I suggested you pick him up, now 21%. He's got 5 goals, 1 assist, 15 shots, and 20 hits. So that's huge. He's getting all those hits. He's getting elevated in the lineup. He was getting some time on the top line with Jack Hughes. And in the last week, he scored 3 goals, 11 shots, and 12 hits. So if you picked him up last week, it definitely worked out for you. But if you picked up Nason, it also worked out. So he went from 2% to 13%. He's a dual position left wing, right wing, and he's that net front guy on the power play. They've elevated him to the first power play unit. He's got 6 points on the year, 2 goals, 4 assists, 1 power play point, 11 shots, and 16 hits. And the Devils in general, by the end of this week, I believe will have 11 games played, and some of the other teams in the league will only have played 6. So you're getting a huge volume play early in the season with New Jersey. They had that overseas trip where they had 4 games. They had 4 games last week. They got 4 games this week. So a ton of hockey for the Devils, and that's going to help you in fantasy for now, but you do have to keep that in mind as we go forward. They're going to have some lighter weeks in the middle of the season. Seamus Casey, if you picked him up, he was at 1%. Now he's at 19%. So people have started to jump on the bandwagon for Seamus Casey. He's the power play 2 quarterback, 3 goals, 1 assist, 2 power play points. Not a ton of peripherals, but he did have 2 goals and 1 assist and a power play point last week. So if you picked him up last week, that's been working out for you. Last week, I mentioned you pick up Tomas Tatar. He had a goal and an assist, so not a bad week, but definitely this week I would favor Eric Holla, mainly for that positional flexibility. 7% owned, centered left wing. 5 points on the year, a goal, 4 assists, a power play point, 8 shots, and 12 hits. So a little bit more peripherals out of Holla. The dual positional eligibility is going to help you there as well. And he does get some time. He's the third line center. He does get some time on power play too every now and then. So this is not a bad option here. All of these guys are relatively ownable in a 12-team league. And then you also have the big guys. Obviously, I have Jack Hughes in a number of leagues, so I'm going to be hoping that he can get it going this week. He's been a little bit slow to start. Same thing with Dougie Hamilton and others, but Timo Meier just got sent back to the Nico Hischier line, which has been better for him in the past, so hopefully that wakes up Timo Meier if you're a Timo owner. Now, up next, we are going to talk about Philadelphia for the first time this year. This is a team that I'm very excited about in general. Just a lot of depth up front. The defense leaves a little bit to be desired, and their goaltending hasn't been great. Fedotov doesn't look like he's ready, so it should be Sam Ersson. He's at 21% ownership, and you can probably go out and grab him in a 12-team league. But right off the bat, we're going to look at Bobby Brink. He's been a very exciting player to watch. In the middle 6, towards the bottom end of the lineup usually, but 1% owned, single position right winger. 1 goal, 3 assists, a power play point, 9 shots, and 9 hits in 4 games. He's line 3, power play 2, so maybe not the best line assignment, but it is worth noting that his peripherals are very strong so far. And I did some analysis yesterday on some of the surprise candidates early in this year. We'll go over that in an upcoming video, hopefully today or tomorrow, and he'll definitely feature on that video. He's been a pleasant surprise. Now, speaking of pleasant surprises, Morgan Frost getting some power play 1 time, centering line 1, so that's a pleasant surprise if you're a Morgan Frost owner. He's only 5% owned, 3 assists, 3 power play points, 12 shots, and 5 blocks. So a little bit of peripherals, not a lot of hitting, and not a lot of goal scoring, but you're getting power play exposure in Philadelphia. Now, they don't have the best power play, at least they didn't last year. Hopefully, Michkov can come in and help that power play become a little bit more dynamic, and that will help Morgan Frost owners if you are one of them. And then you also have Joel Farabee, 13% owned, dual position, left wing, right wing. That's going to help you out. A goal, 2 assists, 3 points, a power play point, 7 shots, and 5 hits. So a little bit more in terms of the hit department. Line 2 and power play 2 exposure. So you're going to get a little bit of that from him. He's been a guy in the past who has had a little bit more offensive upside. He's just a little bit inconsistent. So hopefully he can get that on the right track. He's on line 2 right now, so that should help him with the ice time department. Now, in terms of power play deployment for the D, it's Cam York and Jamie Drysdale. Right now, Daily Faceoff has Jamie Drysdale as the power play 1 quarterback. Cam York is marginally better in most of these metrics. So you're looking at 2 goals compared to 1. You're looking at 6 shots instead of 3, 5 hits, and then 7 blocks compared to 8 for Drysdale. So for Drysdale, if you're going to be able to get him, he's the power play 1 quarterback. You're betting on upside there. You're going to hope that he's going to get you the power play points and some blocks. Otherwise, you're going to get some goals and some peripherals out of Cam York, and both of these guys should be available in a 12-team league. Of the 2, I can't really determine who I would rather have because both are relatively young and inconsistent, and this power play hasn't been good. I'd like to see it happen first. And there are some guys on the next slide that do have some better power play exposure. So as we turn to the next one, we're going to take a look at Ottawa. Now, the Ottawa Senators have shown us this season that they can score in bunches, and they do have some guys that are available. The number 1 guy, a guy that I've talked about on this channel since it began, is Josh Norris. As long as he's healthy, he should be rostered on your team. 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points, 3 of those on the power play, 10 hits for a guy who's had multiple shoulder injuries. You don't like to see him throwing his body around in terms of trying to keep him healthy, but it is going to help you in the peripheral department. Line 2 and power play 1 exposure, he's a staple on that power play. No matter who they rotate in and out, they seem to favor Josh Norris on that strong side, or his off side, I guess. And he does put the puck in the net when he's on that power play. So this is a guy at 18% ownership. He should be looked at in all 12-team leagues. And if you're even in a 10-team league, you might want to get that power play exposure. In terms of another ad that you can find, Shane Pinto, line 3 center, power play 2, so a little bit worse deployment. 1 goal, 1 assist, a power play point, and 10 shots. He looks pretty dynamic when he's out there. He's got a little bit of a pedigree to him, and we don't have a lot of data in terms of the fact that he missed half of the season last year, but we do have enough data to know that he should be a guy who's close to a point per game. And if you're going to get him at 13% ownership in a week where they do have those 2 off-night games, this would be a good deployment for him later in the week. I would grab him maybe around this time, Thursday night into Friday morning, and get him for these 2 games on the the Friday and Sunday, not back-to-back. But these would be the games to find a guy like Pinto if you can't find Josh Norris. I would obviously prefer Norris for this deployment and his production. If you can't get him, Shane Pinto is a nice backup. Can't get either of these 2 guys. David Perron is going to get you peripherals. He's got no points on the year, 11 shots, 9 hits. He is power play 2, and he does do some damage on the power play historically. It's just kind of hit or miss whether or not he's going to get that production going. The dual position eligibility should help you, and you're getting him on these 2 light nights, so that might not factor in. That's why you do have these 2 single position centers that I'm offering up here. But at 5% ownership in a deeper league, if you're just looking for a nice peripheral floor in a points league, or if you're looking for some category coverage, this could be an option here. One thing to note, both Sanderson and Shabbat have been relatively impressive, but Sanderson looks like he's come into his own as the power play 1 quarterback and that dynamic elite number 1 defenseman. He was another guy that showed up in my analysis, which we'll get to in an upcoming video. But that's going to do it for the forward ads this week. Now let's turn and take a look at the goaltenders, because there are some guys that are playing extremely well that are available on the waiver wire. So the first goalie we're going to talk about is Jake Allen. He's 19% owned. Again, they do have that really nice schedule. They've got a back-to-back Thursday at Detroit, Friday versus the Islanders. So 2 potentially winnable games for a team that's been really good off the bat. And Jake Allen has been as well. So 2 wins, 0.5 goals against average, .974 save percentage, and a shutout. So he's been arguably the better of the 2 goaltenders between him and Markstrom. There's nothing wrong with Markstrom. He's been pretty good. He did have that 1 bad game in there, but Jake Allen has been just as good, if not better, statistically speaking, and he's 19% owned, so he will be there for you in a 12-team league more often than not. You can see here on this trend, he used to be as high as a 70 on the goalie hub back when he was getting a lot more starts. Now he's not getting as many starts. The team defense has improved. This was last year's numbers. They have been better this season at least. So that's a good sign in the right direction. And then on top of all that, the goals saved above expected, a little bit lower last year. He's definitely above expected this year. So he's a guy that definitely should be looked at if he's getting that back-to-back. Obviously, Markstrom is the starter there. Now, if you're looking for a guy who could potentially become the starter, you've got Dustin Wolf, who's at 41% ownership. He may not be there for you in a 12-team league, and these numbers don't look great because this was last year. But if you look at what he's done this year, 2 wins, 2.02 goals against, .944 save percentage. This week, they've got Pittsburgh, Carolina, and Winnipeg all at home. A couple of heavier night games. They've got 1 light night. So maybe not the best competition to start Dustin Wolf. Maybe this isn't the week to start him, but if you see this ownership percentage drop a little bit after this week, once he gets a little bit of exposure to these difficult teams, maybe his numbers drop a little bit, this could be an opportunity to scoop him up. Right now, the Flames are 4-0. They've been a really surprising team off the bat. They do have a lot of forward depth. They still have Uyghur on the back end. They still have some guys there that can make plays, and they've been a little bit surprising, but they are atop the Pacific right now. Just with the struggling Edmonton Oilers, this is something to monitor. So if his ownership drops a little bit during the week, maybe take a look at Dustin Wolf. But if you can't find him, there's still plenty of other guys. And this is a guy that I streamed one time this season so far, and that's Joel Hofer. He's at 5% ownership. So this is an opportunity to potentially grab the St. Louis starter if Binnington continues to falter. Now, there's no necessarily reason to think that they're going to go to Hofer as the starter right now. You look at guys, in Colorado. They've been throwing starts at Georgiev for absolutely no reason. He finally picked up a win. I would imagine that St. Louis would do the same type of thing to get Binnington going, as he is their higher paid goalie. But with that said, whenever Hofer's in the net, he's been really productive. 2 wins, 1.98 goals against, 937 save percentage. This week they have Winnipeg at home. They have an away swing in Eastern Canada, at Toronto and at Montreal. So some of these games are going to be harder for Hofer if he gets the start. The Montreal game, if he's going to be started in that one, that would be interesting. Montreal can score. That's the only thing, though. They don't necessarily defend as well as some of these other teams, but Winnipeg, that looks like a loss just based on what we've talked about off the top with their dominance so far this year. And then Toronto is usually a tough game for anybody coming into that building, but Hofer has been really good, and he is probably available in a 12-team league, maybe even in a 14-team league. There still might be some hope to find him on the waiver wire. But if you're looking for more of a starter with a little bit more volume, you got Lucas Dostal. He had an incredible game, 45 saves last night, didn't get the win because of Nathan McKinnon's heroics in overtime. Again, I'm recording this on Saturday morning, so there might be some stuff happening today that will be factored in as we move forward. But Dostal at 27% ownership, he is the starter until they get John Gibson back. So that is one of the main reasons why he's featured here, the fact that you're going to get the start volume out of him. He started 44 games last year. He had a ton of save volume because Anaheim was giving up shots left and right. This year, 2 wins, 2.64 goals against, so a little bit higher there, 927 save percentage. And then this week, they've got Tuesday versus San Jose. That's a nice matchup. They've got a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday at New York and at New Jersey, so that's going to be tough. If you want to spot start him, I would start him against San Jose and then maybe drop him for the weekend because those are 2 high-scoring teams that have their shit together right now, so that might be a difficult spot. But he's only going to get one of those starts, so if you want to hold on to him and just not start him, that could be the plan as well. Now, another starter, and we talked about him last week, is Peter Mrazek. And he's a guy who has always had the start volume and the total saves, as you can see here, 93rd percentile, 95th percentile last year. So even last year when they weren't as competitive as a team, he was still relatively fantasy relevant, especially in a points league where you're getting volume for total saves. This year so far, 2 wins, 2.53 goals against, 911 save percentage is not bad on a team like this. They've got Tuesday versus Vancouver, and then they have a Friday game. So a little bit of a less advantageous schedule, but you are going to get exposure to their starting goaltender. So they have that Friday versus Nashville, Saturday at Dallas. That could be a little bit tricky. And they do play Vancouver, who is a really good offensive team when they want to get it going. Pettersson has been a little bit underwhelming so far, but JT Miller with that nice overtime winner showing that he's back to regular season form. So this is a very tough week to start Peter Mrazek. However, he is going to get at least 2 starts. So if you're looking for volume, specifically start and save volume, this is a guy that you could definitely look at 18% ownership. Now, last but not least, we do have to talk about Pittsburgh goaltending. I don't have any data on Blomqvist because he did not play much last year, but we do have a little bit on Nedeljkovic. But first, we'll talk about Blomqvist because if you look at Tristan Jarry, 5.47 goals against, 836 save percentage, and he's been yanked in, I think, almost every game that he's played this season. So that's really horrible if you're a Jarry owner. I've been getting questions, should you drop Jarry? And this is the thing that I always say, like last year, he lost the starting job to Ned towards the end of the season when they're making a playoff push, but he also was tied for the league lead in shutouts with 6. He's very unpredictable. He could go on a run at some point this season and become one of the best goaltenders in fantasy. That is not the case right now. So for right now, you do have to go with Joel Blomqvist as he is their goaltender for the last couple of games that has been getting it done. 2 wins, 3.16 goals against is not great. 908 save percentage is okay, and it's been good enough. They have Tuesday at Calgary, Friday at Edmonton, and Saturday at Vancouver, so a back-to-back on the weekend. And those are not easy games. I mean, you're looking at the Western road trip. Calgary's been really good so far. Edmonton starting to figure it out, and Vancouver on the second night of a back-to-back. That's a little bit tougher. And then you also have to keep in mind Nedeljkovic has been activated off IR on Thursday. He's been sent to Lehigh Valley for some conditioning starts. Starting for Lehigh Valley today, I believe. He's at 7% ownership. So for the longer-term future, I would look at Nedeljkovic. If you can stash him and maybe anticipate him getting a start on this Western road trip or maybe after it, This could be a longer term play if you're looking in that direction for a goaltender that could start on a team that definitely needs a starter. They don't have Jari at his top form right now, so they're going to be looking for other options, and Blomqvist doesn't have the track record that Ned does. So this would be an opportunity to grab the lower percentage ownership guy and hope for the best going forward in the future. Now that's going to do it for this week's video. We are going to touch on some of the top stories, the top guys that have been performing really well off the bat the first couple weeks of fantasy. That'll come out in another video, hopefully this weekend, but that's going to do it for this one. I hope you all got something out of it. Let me know what you're looking at as we head into week 3 in the comments section below. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.